Hello everybody, how are we all doing? I want to start with a little PSA, public service announcement.
Here we
for
go.
anyone that didn't know. Me. Right. So I've got an agreement with a really close friend of mine that we will call each other when we really, really need to. And what I mean by that is, you know, when you're in a bad mood about something and you want to call your mate and have a little rant. Not that. That's fine. Do that. That's fine. When you want to call someone to have a little chat because you've got some, I don't know, good news, or you just want to have a little chin wag. That's all good, but not that. I'm talking about the time when you feel so wretched and so bad, you think, I can't possibly talk to anyone because I've got nothing good to say. Like, I feel awful. I feel desperate almost, you know? And I've always said, I want you to know that those are the times you can call me. And it's always really difficult when you're in those moments. And I'm terrible at it myself, by the way. I'm terrible at it because you think there's nothing anyone can say to me that is going to make me feel better. There's nothing. I'm so down. I'm so depressed. I'm so wretched that this conversation is pointless. But I always say that they're not. They're definitely not pointless. That's why places like the Samaritans exist. The point is, you reach out, you make a connection, you make a contact. Anyway, long story short to say that a friend of mine reached out to me this morning, and I was so honoured and so proud to have been able to be there for her and to take that call. And you know what? Of course I wasn't able to fix anything. And she wasn't asking to be fixed. She was just asking to be listened to. And I understood what she was saying. And I just reminded her that, you know, it won't be like that forever. And that things will be okay. But right now, you sort of just have to take it moment by moment, because when you're in that terrible state, I think you lose a sense of hope that things will ever be okay. Because you're always looking into the future. It's always going to be awful. It's always going to be, and it's like, I was told when I was feeling like that, just remind yourself, is there anything terrible happening right now, right this minute? Am I okay right in this moment? Yes. Okay, next moment. Am I okay in this moment? Yes. Okay, the next moment happens. And it's like just taking tiny, tiny, tiny little baby steps all the way through the day. It might be all the way through the week, it might be all the way through the month, depending on what you're going through. But that was always really helpful to me. Nothing can be fixed, nothing can be changed. But at that very moment in time, are you okay? Are you're not in danger and you've got a roof over your head? If the answer is, no, you're not in danger, yes, you have a roof over your head, then you're probably doing better than a lot of people out there. So it's just a sort of reminder to anyone who's listening now to just please pick up the phone. Please just reach out to that person. You're not a nuisance, you're not a burden. It's actually, I think, what we're made of. It's like why we're here, to feel like we can be useful to each other, and to feel like you can be as messy and as open as possible to someone, so that they go, yeah, mate, been there, absolutely understand.
And what an honour as well to be that person that they call.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's such an, and you know, she even texted me before, are you at work? And I thought, no, I'm not. I was so pleased that I wasn't, because I knew when you get that kind of text, you know that somebody wants, to call you about something important. And I was thinking, thank you, universe, that I'm not at work, because I really want to be there for someone. So yeah, just a little reminder for everyone to reach out and not think that you're in any way going to be a burden on someone, because it really can be the difference between a terrible day that you don't think you're going to survive and a not so terrible day. Just makes it a tiny, tiny bit easier to get through. Have you ever done that? Have you ever done the calling? I'm sure you've taken the calls.
I've definitely taken the calls,
Yes.
and I'll move hell and water to
Yeah.
be that person and make
Yeah.
sure that I'll answer it. Even if I was busy, I would get at least 5 minutes just to
Yes.
make sure,
Yes.
yes, they're okay. But I think, like your friend, I've also been the one that thinks, oh, I can't do that. I can't ring them. Or what if they're busy? Or why would they want to speak to me? And you go in that sort of spiral thing of, I need to do one of these things to make me go upwards. And making that call, my goodness, it's terrifying. But you're doing it for something better. Have you ever had to make the call to your friend?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have. I've made those calls, and it's really hard because of all the things you've just said. And then on top of that, there might even be a piece of like arrogance of like, well, what are they going to say? How could, and it's like, it's not about how they're going to make you feel better. It's about someone just being with you. It's just it's just someone listening to you. And the power of that, I think, is always underestimated because your mind tells you, well, nothing's going to change. And it's like, well, I'll tell you what will change: the way you feel inside, because you'll just feel for, those few moments a bit calmer, that you can breathe a bit easier. I've rang people in floods of tears to the point where I can barely even get a sentence out.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, I'm talking like this. So no one can tell me that hasn't helped me. I could barely speak, and I picked up the phone. So, it might be incremental and little tiny improvements, but I'll take that any day when I'm feeling like that.
It's important that, you have them people, whether it is a family, whether it's a friend, whether it is the Samaritans, whether it is, therapist.
Yes.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Which we talk about all the time. Get it out.
Get it out. Yeah.
Let's do some getting it out then, shall we?
Yes. Let's listen.
Our first voice note is from Grace.
Dear Jill, my name's Grace and I've been a cleaner for an elderly lady for the last 5 years. During this time, we'd become quite close, as I seemed to be the only contact for her in the outside world, and to my knowledge, she had no living family. I would take her out to places that she remembered from her youth, and we'd laugh about some of her stories. However, I had never even considered what would happen in the event of her death. And when she died quite suddenly, I was very distressed, as I knew I would miss our time together. In my surprise, I was made aware that I was in her will, and she left me quite a large sum of money. Now, I've always struggled, and I've had to work all my life. So, although the money has allowed me financial security, it's also caused some problems. My husband has big plans for my inheritance, and I don't agree with him. I want to do something in my friend's memory and give some of it to worthy causes which I knew that she supported. But my husband wants to spend. I've always known that money changes people, but I'm actually quite disgusted and angry by the way he's handled this. So, what should I do?
Oh, yeah, money. It complicates a lot of things. What a situation. I mean, first of all, I'm really sorry that you lost your friend. It sounds like you had like a really gorgeous relationship, and how lovely to have like found each other in that way. That's really beautiful. First of all, the money was left to you. So therefore, in my mind, in the sort of simplistic way of looking at things, I think, so it's your money, you can do with it what you want. But then again, I know you're married, and if your marriage so far has been a like what's mine is yours kind of situation where you just share everything financially, then obviously that money coming in is going to feel like it's for both of you. But I think your husband has to understand that when you inherit money like that, and when it's come out of something that felt so real to you and totally not about money, it was about something much deeper than that. I think your husband has to understand that your attachment to that is very, very different to his. He sees it purely as just money, a number, and he has a list, presumably, of how he wants to spend it. You have an emotional attachment to it. You have your friend is attached to that. She, like, it's part of her. And I think you have to talk to your husband about how that makes you feel, about how it makes you feel to have the money in the first place. Because I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I know from other people I know that have inherited money like that, there's a sort of sense of guilt, and there's a sense of you needing to be philanthropic with it and do something of meaning with it. And there's nothing wrong with that at all, but that's because of your emotional attachment and because of how you come to receive it in the first place. And I think you just need to have that chat. You need to have a talk and just say, look, this is more than just like numbers in the bank for me. This is my friendship. This is my connect. This was a very important person to me. And then maybe you have to listen to your husband as well and just see where he's coming from, because he might say, well, we've always wanted this or we've always wanted that, and I'm sure your friend would want that for you. And again, you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you got to have the conversations. You've got to have the really open, honest, not the what should we spend the money on. That's not the conversation. The conversation is how you feel about the money and how his attitude towards it is making you feel. And then he's got to come to you and say either, oh, sorry, I didn't realize that that's how you feel, or, well, actually, this is how I see it. And he might just bring a point of view that you'd never thought of before, or he might bring a point of view that makes you feel better about it. But money has an emotional attachment to it, even if it's just like, you know, it depends on how you're brought up and how your parents were or whatever. Money is very rarely just a number to people. So you have to have the emotional money conversation with each other. And once you've had that, maybe you'll come to some agreement that you feel really good about, he feels really good about, and then you can get back to enjoying each other again. Because I understand what you said about how it's changing the way you feel, because when you have had a very, very strong connection with somebody, it feels almost like a betrayal, or that they're trampling over that feeling, because they're not seeing a person, they're just, you know, seeing the pound signs. That's why it's really important to have the conversation, because you might be misunderstanding them. I don't know, but it's important to delve into that, because we don't want crossed wires, do it, Emma?
Definitely not.
No.
What a sticky situation to be
Yeah.
in. And I didn't realise that money, there is that connection with money. Like, if you earn it, you're like, right, I can do what I want with it.
Mm-hmm.
You gifted it. You think,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, it's like your granny gives you a tenner for your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself something nice for your birthday. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't just use it on my big shop. You know what I
Isn't
mean?
it? It's so, I know that, but that's so true. I even remember as a kid when you got money in your cards, and I would remember, like, let's say you got a tenner in the card. I wouldn't want even to spend that particular tenner on something frivolous, because that was the one my nana put in the card.
Yeah.
Rather than just like, well, there's two tenors there, it doesn't matter. I'd be like, no, that's the one that was in the card. So it comes with an emotional attachment that when you really delve into it, it's kind of mind blowing how much we don't just see it as a currency. Yeah.
Good answer.
It's a tricky situation, that,
It
but
is.
you just gotta go for that conversation, and then just try and understand each other's point of view. Otherwise, that's gonna, you know, cause too much friction, and that's not what that money was supposed to ever be about.
Exactly.
You know? So yeah, good luck with that, Grace.
Our next voice note is from Heather.
Dear Jill, my name's Heather. My sister was divorced 2 years ago, and she isn't coping. Things got worse last month when her son accepted a job within her ex-husband's company. She has worked hard to look after her son for the past 2 years, and our mom helps as much as she can. But I wonder, is there anything more I can do other than provide a shoulder to cry on?
I mean, never underestimate a shoulder to cry on, by the way, Heather. That is of the utmost importance in these situations. Okay, So your sister got divorced and now your son is working for their dad. I think that even the reasons for being divorced, we don't know, right? But whatever those reasons were, if you think someone's to blame or someone's at fault, it doesn't matter. That child's relationship with their parent is still their parent. So being a voice of reason, a shoulder to cry on, somebody that your sister can turn to, I would say just keep being that, because divorce and like maybe the reasons for it, and then the residual feelings you have about the partner you're no longer with can muddy the waters, about how you think future relationships should play out. And I think if I'm divorced, and I think if we're really honest with ourselves, it shouldn't have anything to do with how future relationships play out, because that person has their own relationship with their parent. Yes, they're your child. Yes, you might not have agreed with X, Y, or Z. I don't want to get into the details of that. It doesn't matter. What matters is that that's their life, that's their relationship, that's their parent, and all you can do is just be there for a support for your sister, a support for your nephew, and a support for the family. And just know that ultimately, I think you've got to put a bit of trust and faith into the universe that it's all going to be okay, and that this young man is going to make some decisions and make choices in his life that are his to make. And you have to, I think, be as gracious and as open as possible about those things, because none of us, we don't know what the future holds. We really don't. And we can have opinions about whoever we've got opinions about, and we can be proved totally wrong. So I think it's really important to just be like, if you've brought somebody up and you've done your best, then you sort of have to go, and now you go out into the world like Nemo.
Like Nemo.
It's so hard though. You're like, oh, but come back. Don't make bad decisions.
Do you feel like that with your son?
Yeah, you just have this like incredibly protective feeling about them, where you want to stop them from making decisions that you think may be bad decisions. And then I have to check myself and go, hang on a minute. I think there might be bad decisions. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but that's one person's opinion. And also, where's it coming from? Is it historical? Is it coming from a bias I already have? Is it coming from an opinion I have that was from a long time? I mean, you have to really check yourself. And also, you do have to let people make their own mistakes. And it must, I mean, my mum, bless her.
My
mum. Have to watch me and my sisters make so many mistakes. Oh, God. Bless her.
But imagine if she went, I've been here before, don't be doing that. You'd rebel, wouldn't you? And go, well, I'm doing it anyway.
She did say that sometimes.
Good.
Exactly. And we were like, oh, no, well, it's different this time. And she was right.
Always is.
But yeah, I think it's just, that's the hardest part, I think, of being a parent, where they're now considered to be an adult, but you will always feel like their parent. Like, you'll always feel like you should be kind of not telling them what to do, but guiding them. And it's like finding that new, like, relationship where you're like, you can only offer something up. You can't say, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to bed at whatever. It's like, you just, there's a point where you're like, no, they're a grown person now. And I've never liked highly controlling parents anyway. You know, you have friends sometimes and their parents get involved in a huge amount of their decisions, and I've always been quite taken aback by that, because I think that you can only get to know yourself if you're given autonomy. If you're always going, well, what would my mum and dad think, and what do they think's best? It's like, well, how will you ever get to know if you are capable of doing that? I don't like that idea of like infantilizing people.
Just let them. They'll always be my baby.
Oh,
and they're going out to the world.
You will as well.
Our next voice note is from Olivia, and it's been voiced by someone else.
Dear Jill, my name is Olivia and I have a dilemma which involves my in-laws and I don't know what to do next. I have two sons, aged 5 and 2. I understand that siblings need time and space alone as well as together. However, my in-laws seem to organise trips and visits which only involve my oldest son. Last time, the little one was really upset as they were leaving with his brother. They've now bought all the equipment for a camping trip and have told my eldest that he's going without his brother on the first trip, telling me that it's because the youngest is still in a cot. My husband, who is an only child, seems to think I'm oversensitive and that it's not a problem. I feel they're making excuses and that they're almost trying to relive the times they had with my husband as a child. My parents organise visits which involve both boys as they enjoy spending time with them equally. Please help me resolve this.
Ouch. Ouch, ouch. Right, I'm going to try and be less emotional about this, okay, first, because the emotions will inevitably come into it. Okay, so on a very practical level, let's just say if your youngest is still in a cot, then it's probably really impractical to go camping with them, right? So let's just take that as one example and park that and go. So the camping thing seems like fairly legitimate, right? If that's the case. So I'm going to put that over there. If it's something that's done on a regular basis, then this is where the emotion bit comes into it. I was brought up in a family where it's like so fair. Everybody's involved in everything and, no one wants to be left out of anything. Now, if it comes to if it came to an activity like ice skating, one child is 6 and one child is 2, then yes, I can see why you might just take the 6-year-old. The 2-year-old at best will have to have one of those things that they push around. But still in my family, they'd be pushing that thing around, let me tell you. The 2-year-old will be there. But I can see why some people will go, well, they're not going to get a lot out of it, right? So there is a sort of sensible thread to it. But just the idea of your youngest being left out more and being upset about it or being aware enough to realise that he's being left out, that kind of breaks my heart. That's where the emotions come in and I'm like, oh no, I don't understand this. And then you sort of seemingly coming up against a brick wall with your husband where you're pointing it out and he's thinking you're being oversensitive. I just think that might need to be addressed again. And you might need to say, look, I think it seems, that it is happening on a regular basis. And I don't think I am being overly sensitive. And he might be able to come back and he might be able to calm you down and say, listen, out of the last 7 times that they've seen my parents, both kids have been there 4 of the time, so over half. And you might go, oh, actually, yeah, I am being a little bit sort of emotional here and I am just overreacting when the smallest one isn't invited. But, sit down and think of the facts first, like really maybe write it down and be like, right, okay, the last 10 times or so they've been there, what have they done and who's been there, just so you have the facts right in your head first. Because I know for me, when I get a feeling that's quite emotional and I feel very strongly about it, I do tend to get a bit clouded. So do that first and then just, I would say, go back to your husband and just say, look, I just, this is bothering me and it just feels slightly unfair. And just see what he says, because it's hard for me to imagine that, because it's just not how my family was brought up and how we've kind of brought up the kind of new kids in the family as well. Like, what was your experience?
I was an only child,
So there was none of that anyway.
so I didn't have any
What about
sharing.
cousins and stuff? And
No, I was always the favourite. Come on.
So what do you? Okay, so if
I
you
was
put,
I should say I was the youngest one.
you were the
So,
youngest, yeah.
you know, I've got to be favoured.
And what about if you put yourself in her position? What you thinking?
I get it what you're saying about there's a 2-year-old there and the practicality of it, maybe not. But I mean, if it was to carry on when they got older, then you have to say no.
You gotta like say, is there something happening here? Because some people have this idea, don't they, that you hear it's like it's become a bit more sort of fashionable now with parents, hasn't it? I take my children out separately and we have separate dates. Don't have a problem with that at all. I hear grandparents say it. I take the grandparents out. They're like different things because some kids are polar opposite.
Yeah.
They do not like doing the same thing. Get that as well. But I think you have to like balance the books, don't you? You have to make it fair. So if someone isn't being invited, let's say to camping, you have to say, but that's because we're going to go to somewhere else.
Yes.
I think in my family, it was always about balancing the books. It was always about being fair. And I think that you just don't want anyone to grow up and think, I don't think my nana liked me.
Yeah. Oh,
It's, you know what I mean? It's hot. And I'm not saying that that's true. I'm just saying that when children are very fair-based, aren't they? They're literally like, their piece of cake is bigger than mine. I
Yeah.
mean, they will go to the ends of the earth to make sure that everything is fair. So I think they're very sensitive to it. And I think that's why you have to be sensitive towards them as well about it. So, have another chat. But, you know, it's a toughie as well. Because then your husband is also going to be feeling loyal towards his parents. And, everything gets very tricky when all of that's involved. But
Go on then. How fair was your family? So you've got a sister.
I've got two.
And you were the...
I'm the youngest.
Okay.
So you know my every third day in the advent calendar. We've talked about
Of
this. I mean,
course.
that's fair. My mum wouldn't let my eldest sister Nicola get her ears pierced till she was 13. So 6 years later, time's moved on. People are getting their ears pierced much earlier than 13. She still wouldn't let me get my ears pierced till I was 13 because that's what she'd said to Nicola, that's what she said to Paula, and that's what she'd said to me. And looking back, I really respect that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it would be so easy because I went on and on about these years. Please let me get my ears done. And she just said, when you're 13, like that's when it's going to happen. Things, if she went away for the weekend with the girls, there's no way she's bringing back a present for one person and not for the other. I mean, it was all the same presents, usually like 3 sticks of rock.
Different flavour or same flavour?
Well, then you get into trouble, don't you? Because you're like, well, that's my favourite. I like that one. I mean, when my son was growing up, my eldest sister, Nicola, she had a son just 1 year older. So they were very, very close, like brothers. And I mean, even if we bought them exactly the same car and one was red and one was blue, I mean, there was pretty much, a court case about who was going to get which one. And the reasons why. And then you had to write their name always in Sharpie on the bottom of whosever it was, because when they came back to play with them again, there'd be like a little mind game of like, mine was the blue one. Like, no, mine was the blue one.
Classic.
So that was like, right, Sharpies.
I always think my boyfriend's a twin, and I always think like it's such a waste of money. Do you know when people like dress twins in the same stuff and they're looking identical? He's an identical twin. My dad is as well, and have the same stuff. And I think, oh, it's such a waste of money. Why don't you get one in blue, one in red, and and then you could swap every so often. But he says exactly the same. It was yours. It wasn't ours.
Yes.
It was theirs.
Yeah.
know?
And it's, imagine that as well. Not only are you battling, you're a twin, which in itself is, I would imagine, quite a unique experience. You're an identical twin. So people already are seeing you as two. You come together so I think it's then so important to be so fair and so straight down the line, and you get whatever, no one can get more money. No one can get more things. It has to be really fair. Otherwise, they're going to feel, like they're being unfairly treated.
Absolutely. I got all the sticks of rock.
You
can have them all, you know what I mean?
You just had to eat them on your own.
Yeah. I managed all right, man. I managed all right. But it also makes me, I don't share things.
Oh,
When I get that
really?
advent calendar, Jill, it was mine.
But do you think do you think being an only child has in any way made you more like possessive or selfish about things?
Nah, I think I always think about other people rather than me, and I think that is because I'm an only child.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like one day my mum was like, "Go on, you can have a sweet. You know, pick what packet of sweets you want." And I turned around and I went, "I don't really want a packet of sweets because I know other people can't." And my mum always tells me that story that she knew that she brought me up well.
Oh.
But I didn't you know how people were like, see sweets, or kids see sweets and I want it now, or they see something else and they want that now. Where I was just like, I know people can't have that, so I'll not have it. So I bit my, what was it, spite your face?
Bit your nose off to spite your face.
That was it.
I had a bit of one of those when I was, I want to say about maybe 11, 12. My mum worked in the newsagents at Gateshead Metro. And our friend Vin, I'm sure it was Vin, owned it. So it was the first shift she was doing. I went in to see her. I think my sister took me in there. And Vin was like, you can have anything you want in this shop. Anything you want. So my little eyes were like, there's a box of milk tray, there's Quality Street, there's Ferrero Rocher. I mean, they were all around the shop. And I was thinking, and he was going, anything you want, you can have it. And I chose a Mars bar.
Oh, that's the worst.
Because I don't even like Mars bars.
Were you stressed?
I was really stressed. There was so many thoughts in my head. What would be too greedy?
Of course.
Yeah, would he think I was taking the mick? Would he think I would just expecting that? Oh God, well, what about if I just like have a bag of Maltesers, or maybe that's not like big enough? Mars bars, they're quite special. I mean, honestly, the amount of overthinking that went into this, and I still to this day remember being so disappointed with myself when I said I'll have a Mars bar. And my mum didn't encourage me to have. She didn't say, "Go on, you can have something more than that." I think she sort of looked at me as if to say, "That's my girl."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know she hates them.
Oh, there you go.
I'm sitting by myself eating me rock. You're sitting having
I'm
your
in a Mars
sad.
bar going, God, look at that box of Ferrero Rocher on the shelf. What an idiot.
You do it the same now, though, would you?
Would I? I don't know.
Milk tray.
I think I would, you know. I think I'd be like, anything. Okay.
Right, I'm in.
I think I'm more confident now with my greed. Well, it's been lovely, as always, speaking to everyone. And if you are struggling, remember, pick up the phone. And if you've got some hard conversations to have, just don't put them off. Have them as soon as you can. But be as honest as you can when you're having them as well, because that's really important. It's a two-way street. And other than that, same place, same time next week. See you later.